As we move out of the Piscean age into the new age of Aquarius, the ruling planet Jupiter, the crescent over the cross, will be replaced by Saturn, the cross over the crescent, materialism over spirituality. Those who grew up in the Piscean age will feel as though their world is turning upside down, where lies become truths and fact becomes fiction. Spirituality will slowly be replaced by Saturnian materialism. Saturn's energetic characteristics are synonymous with control, restriction, and order, and any group or organization already aligned with these characteristics will naturally gravitate towards positions of authority and control during Saturn's rulership. Many people find it difficult to understand why a disproportionately high number of Jews can be found at the top of large corporations and international organizations. The simple answer is because their monotheistic religion has been worshipping Saturn for thousands of years and are already aligned with its characteristic energies. They are therefore naturally good in business, control, order, discipline, and hard work, along with many other aspects synonymous with Saturn. Saturn is commonly depicted as a black cube or as a six-pointed star. The most important holy day of the week for the Jewish faith is Saturday, the Sabbath, Saturn's day. The number 6 is found in many of their myths, writings, and legends. In traditional Judaism, the practice of wearing the tefillin is observed during weekday morning prayers. 2 black leather cubes containing scrolls from the Torah are joined by leather straps. One cube is placed over the third eye and the other is placed on the subordinate arm with the straps wrapped around the arm like Saturnian rings. They go all the way down to the left hand and around the Saturn finger. This whole practice is a physical symbolic ceremony aligning oneself with the energetic frequencies of the planet Saturn. It is also a common practice for Jewish worshippers to rock backwards and forwards at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. Rocks and stones are ruled by Saturn. The wall faces west, opposite to most religions who prefer the energies associated with the sun rising in the east. The west is where the sun sets and gives way to the underworld ruled by Saturn. In traditional astrology, Saturn rules both Capricorn and Aquarius. The mottos for these signs are I use and I know, the 10th house of career and the 11th house of groups and friends. The modern global banking system is based on usury, with the world's reserve currency being the US dollar. The last 3 heads of the Federal Reserve have all been from the Jewish faith. As society moves further into this new age ruled by Saturn, the cross of materialism will dominate over the crescent of spirituality. We will see Saturn's influence in nearly all areas of our lives, with more control, restrictions, limitations, regulations, austerity, and order. The freedoms associated with the old age of Pisces, which we all took for granted, will become a thing of the past. If we look at each house of the zodiac as an area of life, we can see how those characteristics associated with Saturn are becoming more visible. Our focal conscious minds are being steered away from natural beauty and traditional three-dimensional methods of cohesive social interaction. Instead, much of humanity is being distracted to focus on one of many modern technological devices, pulling their focal conscious minds into a new matrix controlled by Saturnian organizations. If the control system can manage what the focal consciousness targets, then they are halfway to controlling what enters the subconscious, because what you focus on ultimately decides what you become. It is also necessary in a controlled environment to promote as many areas of division for the focal mind to home in on. Divisions of class, income, race, religion, sexuality, etc. This all helps to promote Saturnian separation within society's habitual nature. Saturn is personified by Satan, or the devil. The Latin word diabolos is made up of two words, to divide and abolish. Division and abolition are both Saturnian characteristics. With Saturn being all about control and restriction, it is easy to see why a small handful of the world's richest people have more wealth than the bottom half of the world's population. As a physical collective in a Saturnian environment, one would expect to see, at the top of the human wealth pyramid, those who are naturally aligned with a Saturnian disposition. It is not all surprising to find reports about the Rothschild banking dynasty still maintaining their hold over the international financial system, although accurate reports about the family's vast wealth and empire is scarce. Throughout the years, the governing classes have steered the mainstream media in a particular direction, influencing most of the information which passes through our lives. Using multinational corporations, they have managed to swallow up competition and independent outlets. During the early 1980s, the mainstream news media in the United States was controlled by approximately 50 large corporations. Today, just 6 megacorporations own and control 90% of what we watch, hear, read and think. These corporations decide the variety and scope of what enters the mind through our senses, with the potential of being able to program the beliefs required to perpetuate and expand their system of control. To keep humanity's thoughts ticking over at a low vibration, and in tune with Saturnian separation and division, the mainstream media structures their reporting to offer 17 negative stories to only one positive. The Globalization Project has chosen English as the international language. Certain languages have a natural bias towards cohesion and happiness, others towards authority and obedience. Like the planets in our solar system, each one vibrates its own unique qualities. With globalization unfolding, it would seem sensible for the control system to choose a language which helps them achieve their goals and fits neatly with the projected society which they are trying to create. English has a track record for invoking obedience and discipline within a culture, hence the British Empire. The structure of a language is the building block for left brain development and subconscious programming. English vibrates a song of compliance, obedience, and seriousness. English has its roots in Latin, a language associated with the energetic allegiance to Saturn. In the works of Virgil, he comments that Latin comes from Saturn's people. Homes have progressively become more expensive, smaller, and with less land. Although a natural result of market forces in a debt-based monetary system, it's also part of a larger global picture designed to restrict self-sufficiency. The last thing a Saturnian control system wants is independence. They prefer the majority to be forced into communities of interdependency, keeping them busy servicing the corporate treadmill for life. For many years, governments have been promoting city living, with the construction of millions of new city apartments and condominiums, in an environment of total controlled living. Some of these apartments have the appearance of Saturnian black cubes pressed against the skyline. Families have also been affected by Saturn's restrictive energies. Less women are having children than their parents' generation, and they are also having fewer of them. This is a complete contrast to the expansive energies associated with the Piscean age ruled by Jupiter. This will eventually lead to a decline in the populations of the developed countries, having no choice but to import migrants to take up the next level of debt created by the Saturnian debt-based monetary system. If this does not happen, the Ponzi scheme may collapse. The fifth house of pleasure is also concerned with love and entertainment. It encompasses all those magic moments which make reality a beautiful experience. Most human expressions of creativity are catered for by a variety of corporate products supplied by many national and international business organizations. Restrictions and controls are placed on some forms of creativity through permits and licensing laws. Although health management in developed countries is considered superior to non-developed countries, it is based around big pharmaceutical corporations and the mainstream medical profession. Ancient alternative methods of healing using traditional metaphysical techniques are progressively being squeezed out of the frame. Long drawn-out expensive treatments are preferred by the corporation shareholders. As part of the Saturnian characteristics of restriction, modern medicine can be used as a mechanism to reduce the human population to a manageable size and in line with the globalization agenda. According to one of the richest men on the planet, vaccines are being used as one avenue to facilitate this. Under Saturn's restrictive energy, we see fewer marriages, with nearly 50% ending in divorce. While the unnecessary spilling of the male seed is frowned upon in some Saturnian cults. It has been promoted among the rest of the human population as a mechanism of disempowerment. All forms of sexual perversions of the flesh, especially those associated with the anus, fall under the domain of Saturn. Long-distance travel has seen many changes in recent years. Due to the fear of terrorism, Saturnian changes bringing in greater levels of control and restrictions, with Israel's Tel Aviv Ben Gurion Airport being the gold standard for airport security. All this added control of airport security is a taste of things to come, as we are slowly conditioned into accepting it as normal behavior. This form of surveillance will spread out across many areas of human society. Higher learning and education has become an organized industry. The modern university system is not designed to expand the mind of the individual. It compartmentalizes the broad spectrum of subjects, limiting perspective. The potential of the human mind is offered only one degree of academic understanding, as opposed to 360 degrees of holistic universal wisdom. Wearing the black cap and gown during graduation is proof that the mind has been squared off into left-brain academic intellectual awareness, and proof that you now resonate the Saturnian qualities of seriousness and hard work. This is an area of life where Saturn naturally rules, so any extra Saturnian energy will just exaggerate the restrictions and controls already in place. It is the house of career, government agencies and all forms of corporate controlled institutions. Here we must take life seriously, be self-disciplined and take on as many Saturnian characteristics as we can, ensuring energy alignment and success in one's chosen career. Here we see black cubes and dark suits everywhere. The technological control grid, which is steadily growing around us, is being used to categorize and pigeonhole groups and friends. Our faces are now digitally recognized and linked to those we associate with on social media. This surveillance by the governing classes is supposedly for our own safety, along with restrictions limiting people gathering in public places. This is one of the most important areas to take control of. It's 95% of the mind's capacity. If the subconscious can be programmed from an early age with a pro-Saturnian disposition, then the individual will fit comfortably into a satanic society of rigidity, control, and restriction. After initial programming during childhood, the individual will be continuously stimulated by subliminal Saturnian suggestions from all angles of society. A society dominated by satanic energetic characteristics will reflect this in their everyday lives. Restrictions and controls will be seen everywhere. Low vibrations of pessimism, fear, and misery will infest the nation like a plague, demotivating most within the community. This was the case from 1922 to 1991 with the creation of the Soviet Union, a Bolshevik revolution in which the first Soviet government, coincidentally, was 80 to 85% Jewish. The famous hammer and sickle used by the Soviet Union is another expression of the cross of materialism over the crescent of spirituality. The hammer, which represents industrial labor, and sickle for the peasantry, is very similar to the glyph for Saturn. During the 70 years of Saturnian communist rule, the Grim Reaper managed to murder millions of people. Estimates vary from 20 million to 100 million. This form of Saturnian restrictive control is not considered as a good way to run society. This creates an interesting situation, depending on which system you wish to adopt. It is my view that both Saturn and Uranus will coexist as joint rulers for the first 1,000 years, eventually being overshadowed by Saturn's total dominance for the rest of the Aquarian age and throughout Capricorn. Since the rediscovery of Uranus in 1781, modern astrology has given the planet rulership over the first 1,000 years of the Aquarian age. This creates an interesting situation, depending on which system you wish to adopt. It is my view that both Saturn and Uranus will coexist as joint rulers for the first 1,000 years, eventually being overshadowed by Saturn's total dominance for the rest of the Aquarian age and throughout Capricorn. Both these energies oppose one another. The freedoms of Uranus are contrary to the restrictive controls associated with Saturn. This will no doubt offer the human experience a great deal of contrasting options, depending upon which spectrum of energies you align yourself with. The movie Star Wars portrays the opposing forces of Saturn and Uranus very well. The Empire, representing Saturn's characteristics, try to control the Republic, which represents all the freedoms associated with Uranus. The Empire is symbolized by a six-pointed star, with Darth Vader, Dark Father, at the helm of the dark side. The symbol for the Republic is an eight-pointed star, Uranus being the next planet after the original seven seen with the naked eye.